Everybody, welcome along to our final Pilates class for this block. I hope you have been enjoying our classes, obviously the Pilates work followed by our myofascia release and trigger pointing explanations or little workshops. Next block will take a slightly different turn, which you can look forward to. But for today, let's get into it. Make sure you've got your little ball nearby for your trigger pointing, because we'll get into that shortly. All right, so let's get up standing. So beginning with a big breath. In through the nose and out through the mouth, and then we're going to go for a head tilt side to side, and again big breath in, exhale, and a head tilt front to back. And just notice that your shoulders, if they're starting to drop in, or you've felt your posture go that way in the day, that you keep them back and down. And this time it'll half roll, forward, side, just gently moving between those sides, keeping those shoulders back like I mentioned. Good, back to centre, and one more, big breath in. Exhale, and to the back this time, side to back, side to back. And one more. Good, I'm just getting a feel for what's going on in your body there, a bit of forecasting. Now we're going to take our knees or legs hip width apart, feet flat on the floor. And we're going to go for that big breath in once more. Even pressure between the foot. We're going to roll our feet down towards our feet, sliding the fingertips down. Taking a breath down there, and exhale, rolling up. We're going to take our arms up the side, and we're going to swing forward and back to a rise. And once again, inhale, exhale, down we go, rolling down the spine. Soft knees. Feel that sense of hang down the bottom, nice and heavy. Inhale at the bottom and rolling up through the spine. Taking the arms up and swing forward and back. In those knees up to a rise. Good, one more, inhale. Exhale, down we go, rolling down the spine. Nice little bit of stretch in the hammies. Rolling up, arms out the sides and swing forward and back up to rise. Good, some bends now. Pop the hands on the hips, shoulders back and down. Bend and stretch. Bend and stretch. So just side on, taking care that as we bend, we feel as if we're sliding our back down a wall as opposed to tipping forward. Okay, so keep that belly button to spine flexion. Knees over the toes. You might notice, especially if you do have a mirror or anything, reflection perhaps nearby, you might notice some tools that you can use around you to be able to determine your posture and your technical aspect here. So really make sure your knees are over your toes. Use those tools to make sure you're not knocking your knees, is what I'm getting at. All right, and then we're going to take the arms to second and rise and lower. So as you come up, especially if you've got a mat like mine that's ugly and squidgy, that's great because it is an added extra challenge. Obviously with the weight placement there, it's a bit trickier to get your weight stable when the surface isn't even. So good challenge there, otherwise sticking to your flat floor will give you a good calf exercise here as well. So just check in your mirror, whatever tools you've got around. You need to look down, take a little check that your toes are flat. You're not gripping up instead of pulling your toes inwards, that you are rocking up onto the balls of your feet, flat across the front of the foot there. Cool, we're going to take those legs wide, keeping the arms, and we're going to be rolling forward. So those of you part of motion will be quite used to the grueling exercises I give you with your arm endurance or shoulder work. And backwards. They're designed to, like I say, build endurance, build muscle in your shoulders, biceps, etc. So the big key here is to make sure that you are moving from the shoulder joint, not from the wrists or even the elbows. Okay, so make sure it is the arm and that you're keeping a lovely open chest, drawing your shoulder blades together. Cool. We're going to swing. Hopefully arms are feeling a little heavy now, and this will be some light relief. So swinging through lift, swing, lift, swing. Inhale, exhale. Aim for as much twist as you can. I want that drop to feel nice and heavy, not like you're holding on to your weight there at all. A couple more there. Awesome. Now we're going to go for I say I dream of genie posture, where we have our belly button drawn to our spine, our glutes activated, and our hands in front of us there. What we're going to do is make sure our feet are planted firmly into the floor, our knees are soft. I want you to think of keeping this basically from your hips down, stuck in the mud, in a mold, stuck. Then you're going to be twisting your upper body side to side, making sure as you breathe in, on the exhale, when you twist, you're getting as much range as you can. And just using whatever tools you have around to make sure you're not twisting with the movement. Okay, so keep that nice and strong. And what we're aiming for here is spine mobility. So giving your spine a good movement. I say motion is lotion, as a lot of you will have heard me say. And that is the concept of moving, keeps things oiled up and moving well. Easy movement. And I know personally I'm a little bit tight in this region. Lately actually I've been finding, so this is definitely a spot that I need to focus on getting better at and we're doing more often. Cool. And then we're going to go for some side tilts. So we've done some forward action, we've done some twisting, now tilting. Okay, so it doesn't matter quite how wide your feet are, it's up to you, as long as you're keeping your knees soft. And if anything, I'm slightly on the corner of my leg angle as opposed to side, it's up to you what feels most tight. Working that out. So slightly longer standing section today. As you'll notice, my classes, it's slightly different every time, but you are getting those key ingredients as such, just a different variety of the key movement patterns. So hopefully the motion that you're going through today gives you nice variety in your body compared to last session and compared to the last workout you did. The body loves a good platter, a good menu with lots of different ingredients. So good to mix up. All right, so let's come down onto the floor now. So we're going to begin finding our spine alignment seated. So I'm going to go side on so you can see a little bit more of what my body's doing. And in fact, I might just bring you a slight bit closer as well, just so that you can see a little bit more of what I'm up to. Okay, so we're going to start, like I say, I'm going to be side on. You can start fronting the camera if you'd like. I'm going to have my hands in just a nice easy position in front here. And then I'm going to do my pelvic tilting. So we've done this in many ways. We do it kneeling, we do it lying, and of course seated. I think it's really valuable for us to try this seated as well, because it's often how we're sat in our day, isn't it? We're often at our desks and probably in this position, to be fair. So just being a little more aware of your spinal positions. So sometimes we correct ourselves, correct our posture, but we can actually overextend in this position too. So if you go into this hyperextend position or lordosis spine, we call it, where we're kind of puffing our chest out, we're arching our back, pushing our booties out, just sense how that feels at the moment. You'll probably feel a contraction or a sense of tension, tightness in your lumbar back, to thoracic, that sort of middle zone there. And that's of course unwanted. We don't want to be in this position just as much as we don't want to be in that. So what I'm getting you to test as you go through these postures is finding where the neutral spine sits in between, and then the extreme after that. The neutral spine and the opposite extreme after that. Coming to neutral and just noticing where it is that your body clicks into place in that neutral spine. And now I'd like you to try a different kind of mobilizer. So once you've got your, you sort of mobilized through those positions there, I want you to find the neutral. Try your best to keep that in place. And I want you to roll just your shoulders back and forward. So we're isolating just this top section now, sort of from your chest up. Okay, so I want you to think of rolling your shoulders forward. So you're creating a sort of C shape through your chest here. Just side on to show you there. And then open out into neutral, and then push up with the chest. So you'll notice, yes, there's a bit of impact in the lower spine, but I'm really just trying to show that I can isolate and kind of leave the bottom half alone and just show your chest lift. So if you were appearing to sort of bust out of your chest and then out of your like you could hold or something, of course that would be that hyper mobile position. And then what we're commonly doing with our phones and over our computers is rolling our shoulders. And for some of us, this is even our regular status in this particular posture. So I want you just to find out what it feels like to A, be a neutral spine, and B, find a happy place with your rhomboid engagement. So your rhomboids are your muscles in between your shoulder blades. And when they draw together, it enables the shoulders to open, the chest to widen, and that there should be your comfort space. So a lot of focus, technical sort of focus today on that posture, but I'd love to think that throughout our class, a lot more seated work today that we're doing, you can find that really quickly and kind of click your body into that place. Obviously we move through postures, but I'd like to think that you're really comfortable with finding that. And if it takes a little bit of those exercises I've just given you to establish where that is, where your spine needs to be, and then where your chest region needs to be, so be it, not a problem. Cool, so we're going to get onto the floor now, and let's begin with our regular warm-up for our abdominals. So we're starting with our feet hip width apart. I'm just going to take that off because we're getting warmed up. I hope you are too. Definitely getting warmer out there as well. So we have neutral spine, of course, that we're just going to go straight into today because we've established that really well. And we're going to begin with our knee floats. So taking one leg up and gently pressing down to the floor. And I want you to have as little reliance on those floor feet as ever. So if you find that you're one to press into one leg while you lift the other, I want you to be really mindful of that and see if you can keep an even lighter approach so that these lifted, elevated sort of work that we do, these exercises that we do with both feet up, don't feel quite so strenuous. Okay, so now we're going to go for the lift. Second leg lift, lower and lower. Lift, lift, lower and lower. And even after years, ladies, of doing these, I still find it really challenging to get that second leg up. So just bear in mind that yes, it improves, but if you're finding it's still tricky after, say, your 10 sessions or a few months or a couple of years with me, don't worry, it is a work in progress and it is a lot of weight. I'm going to switch legs now. Lift, lift, lower, lower. So you can just count your wins with progress. It's not something that needs to happen in a day. You are still exercising your core muscles. Cool. So we're going to do a bit of alternating work today, upper to lower. So you'll see shortly we're going to get into some upper movement as well to keep that from being cold. Cool. One more there. Excellent. All right. I'm going to get you to tap your hands down to relax your heels onto the floor. I'm going to do a scaption. So I'm going to get you to glide your arms sideways slightly. Glide your arms along the floor, coming up to your high point, and then gliding back down. Now your focus with this one is to avoid that lordosis that we talked about earlier with your ribs bulging out. So think of a bird cage. You might remember this sort of visual before of having a bird cage where the ribs are, and you're trying to keep the doors from opening, keep them closed and locked in. Okay, so as you go about that movement, you might get to a point up highish where you start to feel that action happening. That would be your point of no return. So you need to pull the arms back down and start them on the track downwards then. Keep pushing that boundary though. If you do feel like you're close to building up a little bit more tolerance without letting go of your ribs, or essentially letting go of the core as well, then to keep knocking on the door a bit. Keep trying to aim for a bit more range. And when you feel like you can touch your thumbs essentially together at the top without letting the ribs bulge, that's when you know you've really built up your shoulder mobility. Naturally, as we age, it's something we just don't use enough. Use it or lose it, I say. So the more we get comfortable in those pathways that aren't as well used in our day, the better we are at keeping strong in them. Healthy joints, really, really important. a comfortable movement as we age as well. So yes, a lot of the time when we do our workouts, we're focused on, you know, what's going to do for our appearance, for our health, all sorts of reasons, you know, people have for exercising. But personally, I'm somebody whose focus is all about health in terms of how I'm going to feel when I'm 80. I don't want to be hating the body I live in, and regretting that I didn't do more for my body when I could. So I hope you see it that way too. While you might feel like these movements are really, really small, they are super helpful. So now we're up the pace. I'm going to take one leg and then the other up to your 90-degree position. Now, for some of you, that's quite enough. If you need to take a rest, pop your feet down, bring them back up, and just take them down and leave them there for the rest of the session, or the section, I should say. So make sure you get your neutral spine in place, and we're going up and over. So imagine you've got a box in your hand, and you're taking it to your knees. Excuse me. There you go. And then up and over to thumbs to the floor. So in doing this, I do feel a little bit of clicky kind of sticky actions throughout the movement. But I do find that kind of weakens off as we get going. It's almost becomes a smoother movement as it warms up. So keep your shoulders moving freely, your elbows soft, forward and back. And once again, avoiding any rib bulging there or doming. So I can feel already that my quads are starting to burn a little bit from the movement. And your upper body's doing all the work, supposedly, but the legs are coming into it from the endurance hold. So a little bit of double whammy here. Okay, so now we're going to get to another stage. So we're going to bring your knees to your chest and have a quick rest. And we're going to coordinate 2 sets of extensions. So you've just been doing exactly the arm movement that you're going to continue with. The legs, however, are going to come in with essentially a bend to extend. Back to bend to extend. Now you notice that my feet are relatively high, almost 90 degrees up to the ceiling. So that's up to you. If you feel you can manage to challenge yourself a little more than my effort, go down further and you'll be doing a really good job of extending yourself and getting those core muscles working shortly. So if you take your arms parallel and to your knees, and then as you extend the arms, extend the legs, and then pull back. So as simple as this movement looks, it is quite overwhelming for those abs. So like you can see here, I'm aiming quite high with my legs, keeping my arms in parallel. Okay, the other option, if you're finding it quite easy, like I say, is to take the legs lower, or you can start to come up each time you pull inwards and extend long as you lie back. So come on in with your little cuddle, little knee hug, and then extend long. If you hover your head, of course you're working your neck muscles strongly as well, and your arms are holding. So it's a very full-on body or full body movement there. Okay, so back to the basics is just leaving your head grounded and extending your legs and arms, and then pulling them back. So as I can always, as you'll often hear me say, I use that bell kind of image. So quite into coordination, being a dancer, and I think a coordinated body is a safe body as well. So think about having the coordination of tap as you bring your knees in, or bell, whatever works for you. A sound's made as you arrive, and a sound's made as you extend. So when you're doing those 2 movements, we don't want to have arms, legs. We want to have arms and legs arrive together, arms and legs extend together. Okay, so let's go one more of those. And bring your knees to your chest to cuddle. Cool. So that's a pretty tricky one there. As you'll already know, the longer the extension of the limb, the harder it is on your core. So being that we've got arms and legs both extending, it's a pretty good challenge there. All right, we're going to do some bicycles. I've really got a very itchy nose today. So apologies, I'm not picking my nose, it's just itchy scratchy. Okay, so we're going to come on up and we're going to do some different variations of our bicycle. So for those of you that are keeping it simple, you might like to go with our laid down position, but I want to get you up to give you some variety as well. So if you're comfortable, you can give it a go In your seated position, extending opposite shoulder to knee. So if I come front on for you, as I extend my right leg, or you've got your leg in front of you, if you're mirroring me, I'll just say if we're going this way, our opposite shoulder comes to the knee. So it's almost like you're trying to tap shoulder around. So bring the knee into the chest and hug towards it. Okay, so when we get going, we've got elbows behind head, never using a forceful motion with our hands either, just always a nice tap behind to keep it soft. So 1, 2. Okay, now if this is getting your back already, come on down to the floor and go for 3, 4, laying down, 5, 6, fully extend the knees if you can, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Awesome. Take a knee to the chest. Then we'll get into our obliques. All right, then if we work our way towards our legs now, we're going to be going to look at our adductors, so underneath leg. Okay, so what I'm going to do, if you're up for a challenge today, is come up and, behind the leg, and we're going to lift up, lift and lower, lift and lower. I find this one's a little bit tricky to lift your hips up, so take the foot behind, keep your hip alignment square to your front, come up and out of your shoulder. It's very easy to sit into your shoulders and kind of hunch up there. So shoulders down and back, squeeze your shoulder blades, lift and lower. Very high intensity when compared to your lower leg. If you want to bring it down, bring down a notch in terms of the difficulty. Bring the foot up and over. You can be carrying on if you're happy with that option. If you want the easier option, lie down and lift and lower, or you can even go fully to the ground as well. Okay, so you probably have seen that one before. Really important to get your adductors working strongly. They assist in all of your squats and lunges and all sorts of deadlifts, leg work and things like that. So really important to keep strong. I love the way that Pilates focuses on a slower pace and a more isolated approach. So obviously just focusing and honing into these adductors today, being key of Pilates work to really discover those small ones. So no doubt you've already found what you're about today. Cool. Then we're going to curl this leg underneath the bottom leg, and the top leg is going to be our lifter this time. So we're going to go for one small hover, and we're going to pulse. Okay, so keeping your hips square, lift and lower. Okay, so keeping those shoulders back and down, your hips square, your glutes activated, your leg pulsing. And I want you to think of the work coming from the higher angles, higher level of your leg, as opposed to all grippy in the quad down low. So the leg is facing forward parallel, not too loud. Oh, and I'm just starting to feel that burn setting in strongly now. So I've got a few more there. If you've already felt that and had a break, not a problem. Good, and relax down. So adductors, abductors, I quite like to work in partnership. It makes sense when they're on the opposite sides, of course, of the leg. So let's go back to our first one there. We're taking our leg behind if you can manage, our beat leg. And we've got our stack here, shoulder to elbow. And we're going to come on up and pulse. 1, 2, 3, 4. And just to note, carry on if you're happy there, my leg is close by my other, just a bit tricky to see that. So I've got the leg happening close as opposed to out in front. Okay, so keep them almost tucked away together. And remember, if you're not comfy with the leg lift, you can be doing it laid down and butt flat on the floor. Okay, shoulders back and down. I'm quite a fan of being mindful as well. I'm sort of looking into the camera here, but if you can think of where the spine alignment is, you're not sort of keeping on too often away from the spine line. So think of keeping a nice straight thing. Cool, and I am touching the floor and then back up, so full range that you can manage there. All right, and then we have our top leg lift, pulse. All right, so shoulders back and down, keeping that nice line through the body, activate the glutes. If anything, your feet should be slightly in front of that 180-degree line of the body, as opposed to behind, okay? Because you notice that's giving me an arch in my spine. And we've set up our posture beautifully today, so we should know that's not going to be working too well for us. Cool, so you might notice if you make a change between a flexed foot and a pointed foot, there is some differences in the muscle activation. So all I can say is establish what it is. It's different for everybody. Establish what it is that is more challenging for you and do that. No doubt something that's easier is what your body is more tuned into doing day to day. And it might even be that one leg is much harder than the other in 4 steps. Just like your right-handed, left-handed one's always going to be a bit better at doing one thing. And that's me done there. So have a rest if you're already at that fatigue spot too. Let's roll on to our front now. We'll actually go for a child's pose for the back and break. Alright, we're going to do a little booty combo here. So just sitting up first of all with your shoulders back and down, pushing away from the floor, elbows are soft, your back, neutral spine, belly button to spine, making sure that your head is up and away, ears away from your shoulders, knees hip width apart, hands hip width apart, shoulder apart there too. So we're going to start off and we're going to be going for a fire hydrant, which is where our knee lifts sideways. Then we're going to come up into a donkey kick. So side lift, donkey kick. So what you might need to, what might be worth noticing is that there's a 90-degree angle in the leg. So that doesn't change. We're going to keep that relationship between the thigh and the calf muscle the same. So I'm getting at that little 90-degree space there. Okay, so no matter what happens, you want to make sure that your tabletop position or your 4-point kneel here is very stable. And that's obviously determined by your core strength. So if I just show you here, you've got your angle open and then kick up the back. So if you can see it just popping up above my head there, that's a good sign. It means that I've taken it behind me. If anything, it should be slightly to the one side. But what you don't want to see is a turned out leg and it appearing across the shoulder, or of course too much the other way. And you'll notice my hip line here will be doing a bit of a boogie as well if I don't keep strong. So the alignment is one thing, our security and stability in here is another, and that's making sure that if you had that idea of a nice little wooden chopping board on your booty, maybe you're the wine and cheese table, you won't want to let that cheese board slip sideways or the wine tip over. Okay, so keep everything really still, even if that means that you're limiting the size or speed of your action of the leg. Okay, so bring the speed down if you need to keep your stability in check. The size of the movement, the range as I call it, that's really important to take care of as well. If you're going for a very big movement, you will take the body with you, so keep very structured there. So let's switch sides now. So we have, out of the side first, and then left. So trying to keep the foot and the knee at the same height, as opposed to the knee doing its thing and the foot staying down. So keep that leg together, that would be the opposite, right? So keeping the knee and the foot in alignment. In terms of your foot placement, I prefer a flexed foot. That makes me feel more engaged, so whatever works for you. Your gaze, you want to take your eye line just ahead of your fingertips so that we don't get the kink this way, or of course the other way. You want to make sure that to keep your spine in place, you're careful of your head alignment as well. So let's go one more there. And taking some big breaths as well. And relax. Cool. So we're going to now go into some sort of more mobile sittings or kneeling positions. And I want you to really aim for your full range in these. So we're going to start with a mermaid-like approach. We've got our hand to the side, make sure it's soft, not locked. And we're going to take the opposite leg away. We're going to come up, go over, come up, lift, lower, down. So a little bit of choreography there for you. So the first thing, we're pushing up, making sure our hand is about the same placement as our knee. We go over, and at that point I want you to feel like someone's got a rope around your hips, or your waist I should say, and they're lifting you up, keeping your shoulders facing forward. You may be too far if you're opening your chest, so keep everything flat. Once you've done that rounded position with your hips lifted, you're going to flatten out square, lift the leg lower and down. Cool, let's go 2 more there. Lift, curve, and then up, lift, lower, down. So hopefully this time you can go for a bit more smoothness and motion. So over, lift, up, down. Let's go for 1 more just to make it 5. I'm keen on odd numbers for some reason today. Around, up, down. There we go. 5's a better number, isn't it? Let's go to the other side. So you should kind of know the drift now, but we'll keep it a little bit more robotic first just to check our form, and then we can smooth it out to make it a bit more soft and flowing. So we have lifting up, soft elbow, partial neutral to curve. Should be a lovely stretch through here. Then settle it out, lift, lower, down. Big breath in. Exhale up. Curl. Flatten out, lift, lower, down. Good, breath in. Exhale. And lift, lower, down. 2 more. Up and over. And lift, lower, down. 1 more. Excellent. Cool. Let's go onto our back. And just take an east to chest section, look after your spine. So we're now going to have a look at our last set of trigger points, getting right down into the less common of trigger points, but still very important nonetheless. Now those of you, there'll be a lot of you out there that use your hands, especially if you're in a job such as hairdressing, maybe you do in your own time knitting, or things that you use the muscles in your arms. So our forearms here, those of you that have done classes sort of more of the weight training notion or nature, they will have, those members will have been aware of a Zottman curl before. So in a Zottman curl, it's essentially a bicep curl that reverses on the way down. And what it does is it strengthens the muscles in the forearm there. So what we're going to do today is take the ball, and you're actually going to put it in the sort of joint spot here in the little crease of your elbow, and then you're going to bring your arm up and hover it there. Now if you do a little push, you'll notice the muscle here starts to get a little bit of pressure, a little bit of a massage. And so if you just do a little hold if you need to make sure it doesn't slip out, and you just let it sort of slide side to side, you can feel that nice sense of pressure easing out the muscle. Now I'm someone who's not particularly handy with my day-to-day. Obviously holding dumbbells, the grip strength that you require does involve them, but not lifting so heavy nowadays or doing pull-ups and things just yet. That's sort of something I'm dodging a little bit. But like I say, those of you that are very involved with your arms and hands, this would be a really good one for you. So we'll switch sides. So the other question I'm aware of is how often or how long do I need to be doing this for to get rid of a problem? So obviously it depends on how chronic the problem is. If it's just a little niggle from a workout, the expectation would be that 2 to 3 days of rest, you'll probably get rid of it. If you're doing a good rest plus some good trigger pointing and releasing, you're obviously bound to have a much quicker recovery once again. But if you're somebody who is facing a chronic pain or a real repetitive pain, as in it's something ongoing, of course it's going to take a little longer than that. So the best thing I can say is if you want a body that serves you well and keeps you pain-free to go about your movement and your day-to-day activities, all of these things are going to be helpful. If you do it more often, the quicker and the better your recovery. If you're less inclined to be doing it, then unfortunately it causes us to suffer a little longer. So I hope that's enough evidence or enough kind of proof and encouragement as to why we should do these things. The other one I wanted to have a look at was your hip flexor. Okay, so really, really important muscle that we just do not spend enough time on. We obviously were having a look at how you'd use a roller to do your release for your trigger point, for your hip flexor, but today we use the trigger point side of it. So I would refrain from lying on your mat, either the carpet, or if you're really, really brave, a flat floor would be really helpful. So what you're going to be doing is lying on your front, your hip flexor, just to make sure you're aware, is the tendons that lie sort of on top of your quads there, or join sort of up to the quads. So they're join the quads up into your hip. So they're really, really ropey kind of tendons. They feel, when you rock over them, it's almost like mountains and valleys. You might have heard me use that concept before. So when you're on the top of a tendon, it's up high, and then the valleys are in between each tendon, so it kind of ripples in and out as such. So I'm going to lie on your tummy and just feel the kind of climate, I guess, the environment that you're dealing with first. You might not notice much. Sometimes we find it's really nice to lie out flat because we are often cooped up. So what I want you to then do, once you've kind of noticed how it feels right now, is pop one hip up, lift your hip, and then place the ball underneath the hip joint. So where your hips join to your knee, or join to your thigh, the angle there, the little in-between spot. So there, once you've sort of established that you've got the right spot, you'll notice it by the sort of pain, bit of tension you might feel building up in there. And I'm doing a little bit of a hip movement, a little bit of dancing down here to switch between those strings. If you think of them like ropes or strings, finding out which one needs my assistance most. So I found one here, and I'm going to hover on it because it is rather tender, rather tight. So I'm sort of rolling side to side, staying on that, very small one, staying on that spot so that I can release it. It'd be so possible. It can even be a bit nervy, and that's totally normal. And I'm trying to anchor as much pressure down into it as I can. It's very easy to be inclined to sort of lift up and try and avoid it, but hide that ball away. Get that ball right into the pressure spot. Okay, and then, like I say, the longer you spend, the better chance you'll have of releasing it and giving it some good sensations and giving it some release. But yeah, time issue. Just do what you need to do. Okay, and then we're going to switch sides. So same idea, and just remember, your two children aren't the same, neither are your two legs. They should be treated differently according to what sort of challenges they face. I found that much quicker this one, so this one must be a bit tighter. And I'm now actually using my shoulders, my elbows, I guess, to support this, so I'm pressing a little bit more into it to give a better release to the muscle. Keep breathing as well. Naturally, as soon as you hold your breath, your muscles stay tight. So the more release in your body, the more inhale, exhale, the more relaxation, better ability we have to actually ultimately release that body out and relax the body. So while I have been doing these at the end of the class, it's not necessarily only at the end that you should be doing this. You might like to use your trigger pointing, or perhaps even your rolling, as a bit of a forecast for your body prior to a workout. So some of you that do your personal training sessions with me will know that we do our dislocations as in on, or mobilizing with the bar, with that big stick. And that there gives me, as well as hopefully yourself, a really good idea and gauge forecast of what your body is feeling today, where our tight bits are, what our movement's like, and kind of just invites you into tuning into your body better. And this does the same essentially. So if your intention is to do a workout that works for you and not just what you know you should, if you're someone listening to your body to give it what it needs, listening to the whispers and not waiting for the yells, then this is a really good way of finding out what your body's telling you, giving you some signals before you get started. Okay, so another really good way, thing to do is to stay lying and actually continue to do so that I kind of talk to you. But if you're still lying, you might like to just have a little feel now and compare how it felt when you were laying there first of all to how it feels now. If you take the ball away, it should feel, even while I'm kneeling here, it just feels a lot calmer, released, and sort of more easygoing, I guess. There's not many adjectives I can think of, but that feeling has got to be a nicer sensation than when I began. So that's really cool to know that we're getting somewhere with this trigger pointing. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you, after this collection of 12 sessions now, you've come to see the benefits of Pilates and of course the trigger pointing and releasing myofascial release as well. Like I say, week 12, so that's the end of block 3. Block 4 will be on with a whole different feel for your Pilates classes. I've got a different intro in store. So otherwise, keep tight and we'll see you next week with that. I'll look forward to seeing you then. Have a good one.